It was 3:14 a.m. when I woke up to silence so heavy it felt alive, the kind of silence that hums, the kind that doesn't belong to the world outside but to something greater, something waiting. At first, I thought it was just another sleepless night. But then, the air changed, it didn't move, it shifted. The atmosphere thickened, charged with something unseen but undeniable, like the seconds before a storm when creation itself holds its breath. I sat up slowly, confused, but my spirit knew before my mind did. He was here, not imagined, not hoped for, here. A faint glow began to breathe in the far corner of the room, soft, golden, pulsing like a heartbeat. It wasn't coming from a lamp or a streetlight. It was coming from presence. And as it grew brighter, I couldn't look away. Then he stepped forward, quietly like peace taking form. Jesus, no fanfare, no blinding flash, just him. The light around him didn't shine on things, it revealed them. Every shadow retreated, every thought stilled, every breath became worship without words. His robe shimmered like woven dawn, and his eyes, those eyes, carried every sunrise and every tear humanity ever cried. They weren't fire, but they burned. They weren't water, but they washed everything clean. I couldn't speak. My body trembled, but my soul stilled. He smiled. So gently it made the darkness itself bow. "Do not be afraid," he said. The sound of his voice was unlike anything I'd ever known. It wasn't loud, yet it filled every inch of the room. It wasn't forceful, yet it shook me to my bones. It was love wrapped in authority, every word both thunder and whisper. Tears slid down my face before I even realized I was crying. I couldn't stop. The closer he came, the more everything false in me dissolved. He looked around my room for a moment, not with judgment, but with affection. Like he'd been there before, waiting for me to notice. Then his gaze met mine. "You've called for me in the light," he said softly, "but I came in the dark so you'd finally see me clearly." The words hit deep, so deep they unmade me. I understood what he meant. I had prayed in crowds, sung in services, shouted his name when the lights were bright and the music loud. But in the silence, in the stillness, I hid. He stepped closer, his light flickering like a flame steadying in wind. "You run from the quiet," he said. "You fill your nights with noise, your days with doing, but the silence you fear is where I've been waiting." I tried to answer, but my voice cracked. "Lord, why now? Why here?" He looked at me, eyes full of eternity, and whispered, "Because you were finally still long enough to hear me knock." I wanted to fall, to bow, to disappear in awe, but he reached out and touched my shoulder. The moment his hand met me, peace like liquid light ran through my veins, every anxious thought silenced, every wound in my heart stopped bleeding. He lifted his other hand, and suddenly, the air shimmered like glass reflecting another world. I saw flashes, moments of my life, both forgotten and familiar, every missed prayer, every moment I chose distraction over devotion, every time he had whispered through circumstance, and I had drowned him out. And still he smiled, not disappointed, delighted. "You see weakness," he said. "I see waiting. I don't waste the slow." The glass shifted again, showing the world outside my window. Streets asleep, people unaware, the night heavy with unspoken cries. "They think I am far," he whispered, "but I am walking their hallways, standing in their silence, knocking on their hearts. I am not late. I am near." He turned back to me. "I came to remind you, and them, that I do not visit, I dwell." The words wrapped around me like a promise. And then his tone changed, gentle, but carrying the weight of eternity. "Something has begun," he said. "Heaven is closer than it has ever been. The line between what you see and what is real grows thinner every day. The world feels like it's falling apart, but it's only falling into place." Lightning flickered across the glass vision again. Nations trembling, hearts waking, prayers rising like sparks in the dark. "They will call it chaos," he said, "but I call it invitation. Every shaking is a doorway. Every storm is a summons." The light around him pulsed, growing stronger until I could see nothing but him. His scars glowed, faint at first, then brighter than the stars. I wanted to reach out and touch them, but I couldn't move. "You will tell them," he said. "Tell them I still walk into rooms uninvited, still find hearts that have forgotten how to hope, still speak to souls who stopped believing I would." He stepped closer. "Tell them darkness is not my enemy, it is my canvas." I could barely breathe. The tears came harder, but they didn't feel like grief. They felt like cleansing. He placed his hand over his heart. The glow from his scars spread through his fingers, into the room, into me. "This," he whispered, "is what they'll feel before I come again. The pull, the longing, the ache that refuses to quiet. Tell them it isn't fear, it's recognition. Their spirits remember me, even when their minds forget." The air began to hum again. The light brightened until I couldn't see his face. Only the outline, only the glow. "Tell them," he said, "that I'm not returning to end their story. I'm returning to finish it." The room filled with a radiance that felt like joy and ache woven together. The world seemed to breathe, and then silence. I gasped, my chest burning, eyes wide. My room was still. The candle beside me had gone out, but the air glowed faintly, as though heaven hadn't fully left. The clock blinked 3:59 a.m. I sat there in the half-light, whispering to myself, he was here, he's still here, and deep inside, the echo of his words refused to fade, not just in my room, not just in my mind, but in the quiet spaces of my soul where his whisper still burns. All the next day, I couldn't speak of it. How do you tell people that Jesus stepped into your room and left his voice living in your chest? How do you explain silence that still hums with heaven? Everywhere I went, his words followed, not like an echo that fades, but like a heartbeat that never stops. Tell them darkness is not my enemy, it is my canvas. That line played over and over in my mind. I heard it in the hum of the refrigerator, in the wind brushing the windows, even in the footsteps of people passing me on the street. He hadn't just visited, he had painted something inside me. By the time night fell again, I couldn't resist it. I turned off every light in my house, sat on the floor, and whispered, "Lord, if you want to speak again, I'm listening." The clock read 3:22 a.m. Then the air changed. That same holy stillness filled the room again. But this time, the light didn't come from a corner, it came from within. It started as a warmth in my chest, then spread until every part of me vibrated with it. My skin tingled, my bones felt hollow and full at the same time. I opened my eyes, and there he was again, not as far away this time, closer, so close that the distance between heaven and earth didn't feel real anymore. His face was calm, but his eyes carried something different intensity mixed with compassion, like thunder wrapped in mercy. "You heard me," he said. I nodded, barely breathing. "Good," he whispered. "Now hear this, what you felt last night was not a visit, it was an awakening." He lifted his hand, and the air between us shimmered like rippling glass. I saw visions again, not of heaven, but of people, crowds, cities, faces, some sleeping, some crying, some looking toward the sky with eyes that couldn't see. "They think the dark is punishment," he said, "but I am using it to reveal the light that religion cannot fake." The images moved faster. I saw churches, packed but cold, homes glowing with screens but empty of peace, believers whispering prayers while doubting the sound of their own voice. "Tell them," Jesus said, "that I have not gone silent. Their noise has only grown louder." The words pierced. I realized he wasn't angry. He was grieved by how disconnected we've become from his whisper. "They seek spectacle," he said, "but I still move in simplicity. They search for fire in the sky, but my flame is already burning in the hidden hearts." I felt my throat tighten. "Lord," I asked, "what do you want me to tell them?" He turned, and the light behind him shifted, forming what looked like a door of pure gold wide open, radiating warmth and beauty that language can't hold. Through it, I could hear faint music, not melody, but motion. The sound of peace breathing. "Tell them the door is open," he said, "but they walk past it every day." The golden light spilled into the vision, flooding the world below. Wherever it touched, things woke up. I saw people fall to their knees, not in terror but relief. They weren't being judged, they were being found. "My presence is returning to ordinary rooms," he said. "Homes, schools, hospitals, prisons, the places the proud have ignored. That is where I am stepping next." He paused. His gaze locked with mine again. "But before I return in glory," he said, "I will return in awareness. I will awaken my people until they cannot go a day without sensing me near." The words hit like prophecy, deep, undeniable. He turned his head slightly, as if listening to something in the distance. "The time of half-light is over," he said. "My people will shine or they will sleep. There will be no middle left to stand in." I trembled. Lord, I whispered, how do we stay awake? He stepped closer, close enough for his light to wrap around me like fire that didn't burn. Keep oil in your silence, he said. The phrase made no sense at first, oil in my silence. He saw the confusion and explained, oil is what keeps the flame alive. Silence is where it burns. Guard your stillness, because that is where I speak. Those who keep the oil will hear me when others panic. He lifted his hand again, and the light from his scars filled the room. The air smelled faintly of rain, though no window was open. Tell them I am not only coming in the clouds, he said, I am coming in conviction, in mercy. In every moment they stop long enough to feel me breathe. He turned back toward the glowing door. The light behind it flared, and for a moment I saw shapes angels, vast and brilliant, moving like wind across eternity. They bowed as he looked their way, then disappeared into the radiance. The message I give you tonight, he said, is not for fear, it is for faith. What is coming will not destroy those who listen, it will define them. The glow began to fade again, his outline blurred, but his presence didn't leave. Tell them I am not finished, he said. Tell them I still walk into rooms where I'm wanted. Then his last words that night came like a heartbeat, steady, slow, final. Tell them I am closer than the dark they fear. The vision folded, the light dissolved. I was back in my room, air thick with peace. The clock blinked 3:58 a.m. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was alive. I sat there, unable to move, whispering his words over and over so I wouldn't forget. Keep oil in your silence. He's closer than the dark. The world outside was still asleep, but my spirit wasn't. Because once you've heard his whisper in the dark, the night never feels empty again. The next night, I didn't plan to stay awake, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that golden door open, radiant, calling, and his words echoed like a melody I couldn't turn off. Tell them the door is open, but they walk past it every day. At 3:11 a.m., the same hum returned, not loud, alive. The air trembled, soft light bleeding through the edges of the darkness like dawn fighting to break through. My hands shook as I whispered, Lord, are you here again? And then, before I could even breathe, the room shifted. The walls around me dissolved into light, and suddenly I wasn't home anymore. I stood before the door. It towered over me, golden, endless, pulsing like a heartbeat from heaven itself. Every inch of it moved alive with flame and water, light and song. And though I was surrounded by beauty, my spirit knew what I was seeing wasn't just beautiful, it was holy. Jesus stood beside the door, not glowing this time, not distant. He looked human, wearing the same robe, the same scars, but his eyes, they held the weight of eternity. He turned toward me, and even before he spoke, I felt the warning in his gaze. Do you see it? He asked. Yes, Lord. I whispered, the door you showed me. Look closer. I did, and my breath caught. From beneath the golden light, a shadow pulsed, like smoke beneath sunlight, moving slow but steady. People, crowds of them, walking right past it. Some glanced at the door but kept going. Others walked through it without realizing. But most, didn't even see it. Why don't they notice? I asked. He looked down, grief softening his voice, because their eyes are full of everything else. He waved his hand, and the vision zoomed closer, cities flashing past, homes, churches, glowing screens, endless noise. People scrolling, arguing, preaching, performing, but none of them listening. The hum of the door's heartbeat was there, always there, but it was drowned by distraction. They call it life, he said, but it's just loud sleep. That line hit me like thunder. Loud sleep. Every part of me trembled because I knew I was guilty too. He turned toward me again. His eyes burned with light, not anger, but ache. The door won't stay open forever, he said softly. Every door that opens must one day close. My heart sank when, Lord, he looked upward. The sky above the door rippled like water, revealing flashes of what's to come, storms, trembling nations, hearts waking in chaos. When mercy finishes its work, he said, judgment begins. The golden door flickered, its glow pulsing like it was breathing faster. But even judgment, he continued, is mercy in disguise. Every shaking is a chance to wake. I fell to my knees. The air was thick with glory and grief all at once. Lord, what do you want me to do? I whispered, how do we wake them? He stepped closer. His shadow fell across me, warm and soft, and he spoke the words that seared into my spirit, by listening before you speak, by feeling before you preach, by weeping before you warn. He paused, letting the weight of those words sink deep. The world has enough noise in my name. What it needs now are echoes of my heart. And then he pointed toward the door, go closer. I hesitated, but he nodded, so I stepped forward. The closer I came, the louder the hum became, deep, rhythmic, alive. The surface wasn't solid, it moved like liquid gold. I could see reflections inside not my face, but moments. There I was, praying as a child. There I was, running from conviction. There I was, standing where I am now, trembling, unworthy, but willing. Every moment you've ever lived, Jesus said, was me knocking. I reached out, my hand shaking as it touched the door. It wasn't cold, it wasn't hot, it was everything. In that instant, I felt every heartbeat of humanity. Every cry for help, every unanswered prayer, every soul too tired to hope. This is what I feel, he said quietly, every moment of every life, every tear, every silence. Tears poured down my face. Lord, it's too much. Yes, he whispered. That's why I carried it, that's why I still do. He turned to face me again. When the world grows darker, they will ask, where is God? Tell them I'm still at the door, I never left, but soon I will step through. The golden door pulsed again, brighter this time, so bright I had to shield my eyes. Tell them I'm not waiting for them to build something worthy. I'm waiting for them to open their hearts. I could feel his sadness and his joy in the same breath. Before I return in glory, he said, I will return in hunger their hunger for me. The revival they're waiting for isn't in the crowd, it's in the quiet. The light reached its peak. The ground beneath me turned into glass, reflecting heaven's fire. Jesus stepped forward, standing half in the light of the door and half in the world. Tell them, he said again, I'm still knocking. Then he smiled, not a smile of farewell, but of promise, and when the door finally closes, those who listened will already be inside. The light erupted. The hum turned into a song that felt like eternity inhaling, and then I was back. The clock read 4:02 a.m. My heart was still pounding, my hands glowing faintly as if I had touched something that didn't belong to this world. I wrote down every word before it faded, but the strange thing is it never really did, because since that night, every time the world goes quiet, I still hear the hum of that door, and it sounds like an invitation. The night after the vision of the door, I didn't even try to sleep. Something inside me was unsettled, not fear, not confusion, but a weight I couldn't shake. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him standing half in the light, half in the world, whispering, tell them I'm still knocking. By 3:09 a.m., I was already awake. The candle by my bed burned low, and the air carried that same thick stillness, the kind that feels like heaven breathing just beyond the veil. Then, just as before, the light returned. Soft at first, then radiant, and with it came his presence, but this time there was urgency. He stood at the foot of my bed, robes glowing faintly, eyes like deep wells of storm and sunrise combined. The light around him wasn't peaceful, it was alive, pulsing like a heartbeat against time itself. It's closer than they think, he said quietly. I could feel my pulse matching his words. What is, Lord? The moment when mercy gives way to justice. His voice didn't rise, it deepened. Like every syllable was carved from eternity. The door of invitation will not stay open forever. Every generation is given a season to return to me, and theirs is ending. The room dimmed. Shadows folded around his light like the world itself was leaning in to listen. They think they have time, he continued, but time is a borrowed gift. The world treats grace as infinite, but grace has an appointed end, not because my love runs out, but because my bride must be gathered. He raised his hand, and suddenly I saw the world again, cities blazing with light, people rushing through streets, their faces illuminated by screens instead of stars. I saw churches crowded with movement, but silent of reverence. Voices preaching, shouting, debating, yet none listening. They speak my name, Jesus said, but few recognize my presence. Then the scene shifted. The golden door, that same radiant gate, stood open in the sky. But this time it flickered. Its edges trembled like a candle fighting the wind. From within, I heard music softer than before, as though even heaven was holding its breath. When the door begins to close, he said, it will not slam, it will dim, and I watched as the glow faded, inch by inch. The world below kept moving, blind, unaware. They will not notice the silence until it's gone. He looked at me, eyes fierce, full of sorrow and strength. When that moment comes, the noise of man will grow louder to drown the sound of my absence. I felt tears burning down my cheeks. Lord, what can we do? He stepped closer, the light of his scars reflected on the floor, flickering like living fire. Tell them to wake up, he said. Tell them I am not coming for the ones who wait to believe. I am coming for the ones who believe while they wait. His tone broke me. It wasn't anger, it was ache. The kind of ache a father feels for a child that keeps running toward danger. There is still time, he said softly, but the time left is holy. What they do with it will echo in eternity. Then he stretched out his hand again, and I saw two paths appear before the door, one narrow and glowing faintly, the other wide, paved with gold that cracked under the weight of footsteps. People were flooding the wider road, singing, shouting, believing they were walking into light. But as they drew closer, the gold faded, turning to ash. Meanwhile, a few stumbled down the narrow path, tired, unnoticed, but determined. The light around them didn't blind, it guided. Many will mistake brightness for truth, he whispered, but only those who walk by obedience will find me. I wanted to cry out, to stop the people on the wide road, but I couldn't move. Then I saw something that made my heart sink, believers I recognized. People I knew, faces full of faith, yet distracted, drifting toward the wide path. Lord, I cried, they love you. He nodded, but his voice broke as he replied, yes, but they love me as long as I agree with them. They want my peace without my presence, my blessing without my lordship. They honor me with songs, but hide from my silence. He stepped forward, and the air trembled with power. Tell them the hour of choice is not coming, it's here. Lightning flickered through the golden door, thunder rolling like distant drums, before I return in glory. He said, the hearts of my people will be revealed, not by miracles, not by fear, but by decisions. The ones who stand when it costs them will be the ones who rise when I call them. Every word hit like a heartbeat in my soul. Then he turned his gaze back toward the door. The hum grew louder again, the same deep vibration I'd felt in every encounter. Listen, he said. I did, and within the hum, I heard something new. A rhythm faint, steady like footsteps. Marching closer, what is that? I whispered. He smiled sadly, the sound of heaven approaching. And for a moment I heard it, thousands of steps in perfect unity, angels preparing, trumpets being lifted. Not chaos, not noise, order, heaven organizing for his return. They think I am silent, he said, but I am assembling. Then softer, and when the trumpet sounds, mercy will no longer be a call, it will be a crown. The light around him pulsed one last time. Tell them the door is closing soon, he said, but those who listen will not fear the sound. And just like that he was gone, the silence that followed was deafening but not empty. It carried the echo of marching footsteps fading into eternity. I sat there for hours after he left, unable to move. The candle had melted to nothing. The clock read 4:06 a.m. I realized I wasn't just meant to hear the message, I was meant to carry it, because this isn't a warning of doom. It's a whisper of mercy before the storm. And maybe that's why he came to remind us that even as the door begins to close, he's still knocking. I thought that last night would be the end of it. After everything he'd shown me, the door, the warning, the sound of heaven assembling, I thought it was over. But I was wrong. He wasn't finished, because what came next wasn't a vision of fear. It was a sound that made the world feel alive again. It began before I even realized it was happening. 3:17 a.m. The same time, the same quiet hour heaven always chose, but this time there was no flash of light, no sudden trembling in the air, just music, not from speakers, not from instruments, from everywhere. It was like the atmosphere itself began to hum deep, resonant, pure. It didn't come from one direction, it came from within everything. The walls, the air, my heartbeat, all of it vibrated with that same rhythm, and I knew he was here again. I whispered, trembling, Lord. The air glowed softly, as if it had been waiting for me to ask. And then he appeared, not in brilliance this time, but in beauty. The kind of beauty that silences thought and fills your lungs with worship. He stood there, radiant and calm, light resting on him like it finally found its source. "Do you hear it?" he asked. I nodded, eyes wide. "It's everywhere." He smiled. "That's because creation is remembering." His words felt alive. I didn't understand at first. He stepped forward, eyes shimmering like galaxies under candlelight. "When I spoke the world into being," he said, "every atom carried my frequency. My voice became its foundation. Every sound you hear, wind, thunder, waves, heartbeat, is creation echoing the breath that made it." He looked upward, and the ceiling of my room vanished. Above us stretched a sky deeper than black, filled not with stars, but with light that moved. It pulsed with rhythm, matching the hum that filled the air. Each pulse was like a heartbeat, heaven's heartbeat. "The sky is beginning to remember the sound," he said, "the sound of my coming," and I saw it. The stars were moving not randomly, but in sync, like they were keeping time with a melody only heaven knew. Then, faint at first, I heard voices soft, countless, layered like wind through trees. They were singing, not words, worship, the kind of worship that makes you feel like your soul is both breaking and healing at once. "This," he said, "is what the world will hear before I return, not thunder, not war, but harmony, the sound of heaven and earth finally breathing together again." Tears streamed down my face. The sound grew louder, brighter. Every note felt like light touching the skin of my spirit. "They will call it strange weather," he said. "They will call it storms, earthquakes, signs in the sky, but what they're hearing is me tuning creation back to my voice." Then he turned toward me, his expression both fierce and tender. "You've seen the warnings," he said. "You've heard the knocking, but this is my promise." He spread his hands, and light spilled from his scars again, brighter than ever before. The glow reached into the sky, and for the first time, the light didn't stay above. It poured down, it fell like rain, only it wasn't water, it was life. Every drop shimmered, and when it touched the earth below, I saw hearts ignite, people on their knees, families praying, children dreaming. Believers once silent, now speaking his name again. It wasn't revival in a church, it was revival in the world. "This," Jesus said, "is the sound of mercy finishing its work." The rain fell faster. The hum became a song, louder and louder, until the very air shook with it. I wanted to cover my ears, it was too beautiful, too much for flesh to handle, but at the same time, I didn't want it to stop. He turned toward me again. "Tell them," he said, "that before the trumpet sounds there will be a song. Those who have listened for my whisper will recognize it when they hear it. It will not frighten them, it will free them." The light from his hands wrapped around me, warm and weightless, like standing in sunlight that loved you back. "Tell them that when the sky begins to sing, they will know the waiting is almost over." And then, softer, his voice breaking just enough to sound human, "Tell them I kept every promise." He reached out one last time, touching my forehead, and whispered, "What you've heard tonight isn't just for you. It's the melody of awakening, carry it." The light surged, not blinding, but endless, and suddenly I was back in my room. The air was still ringing with that celestial hum, fading slowly, like the final chord of a song that never truly ends. I looked at the clock, 3:59 a.m. Outside, the world slept, unaware that heaven had just exhaled. And in that silence, I whispered the last words he spoke, trembling, but certain. "He's coming. The song has already begun." The air felt charged again, peaceful yet electric, and as I sat there in the quiet, I realized something. Every whisper, every vision, every word he gave wasn't just a message. It was a melody that starts in heaven and ends in every heart that dares to listen. And even now, if you're still enough, if you let the noise fall away, you might hear it too, the song, the hum, the sound of Jesus drawing near.